What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Xalem Season 2. And man, I have so much cool stuff planned for you. Brand new series starting in February, brand new camera angles, brand new transitions. And what better way to start off the new season than by taking a random look at a game in my collection? Why would I think of a creative idea myself when I could leave it up to the miracle of chance? Are you Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Can you believe they made a Sega one of these? Sonic the Hedgehog was a massive success, making a name for the Genesis and putting Sega and Sonic on the map as competitors in the console market. It was so successful, in fact, that the Genesis actually outsold the Super Nintendo by double in 1991, and was the first time in 6 years that Nintendo didn't dominate the console market. Now, I've talked extensively on the first title and how it's an okay experience in its own special way. There's no denying that it basically laid the foundation for the entire series that we've grown to know today, and I do think it did a great job of creating a memorable experience with great music and addictive gameplay mechanics. But Sonic 1 had pacing issues, levels drag on for far too long, the emphasis on speed is far underutilized, the game spends far too much time making you wait for upcoming platformers rather than keeping the momentum of a quick speedrun-like experience. And that leads us to Sonic 2, the highest rated sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I did play this a lot on the GameCube, so one could call me... oh, what was the word? With Sonic 1 being such a success, it was only natural that a second game would begin development soon afterwards, but not without its issues. Following the first game, lead programmer Yuji Naka actually left Sega after many concerns with the corporation. It was around this time that Mark Cerny, the guy that shows off all the technical bullshit in Sony's press conferences, started up the Sega Technical Institute, a brand new branch of development located in California. Hearing about his recent departure from Sega, Cerny offered Naka a higher salary and more creative freedom. He accepted. Does anybody else find it funny that Yuji Naka left Sega to work for Sega, but this Sega has the acronym of STI? I promise you I can't make this stuff up. The early 90s was a bit of a renaissance for video games. Home consoles were starting to dominate the sales market, while arcades were still the primary place to go for gaming alongside other people. And Sega knew this, and with that enter the split screen era, two people being able to play at home while sharing a single screen at the same time. Hey man, But Sega needed a character to prove this, and after taking inspiration from Japanese foxes, Miles Prower was born, otherwise known as Tails. Can you believe people don't know that his name is a pun? Miles per hour. Now, would you believe me if I told you that Sonic 2 was responsible for changing the entire structure of the video game industry? That is not a sentence I was expecting to be saying today. See, with the monumental success of Sonic 1, Sega wanted Sonic 2 to have a global release date, every game available in every store on the same day of release. Now, today this is commonplace, but in the early 90s with localization issues and the lack of internet to communicate, this was much more difficult than it seemed, as no company had ever tried to do a global release, at least on this scale. This day ended up being November 24th, 1992, the last Tuesday in November, ending up with the nickname Sonic Tuesday, unless you live in Japan, in which they f***ed it up and released it 3 days early. The Tuesday release ended up being a massive success, being one of the biggest game releases in video game history. Because of this, Sonic 2 is the reason that most titles nowadays tend to drop on a Tuesday. If that wasn't enough, Sonic 2 has since then went on to receive numerous accolades, tons of critical praise, and is considered by nearly every reviewer to be a far superior experience than the first title. But is this the same Hedgehog we're talking about, and does it really live up to that hype? This game is such a step up above the first title. Sonic 1, yeah, it's a decent title. A lot of hit or miss for most people, but Sonic 2 improves upon its predecessor in almost every single aspect. The level design, the movement, the music, everything just has a better degree of polish than in the first game. Oh my god, I can't believe it. I'm actually talking positive about a Sonic game. Sonic 2 takes most of the frustrating elements of the first game and completely spins it on its head, getting rid of most of the things that I found frustrating about the first game. Most of them. So where do I even begin with this? Sonic 2 starts its improvements right from the get-go. Immediately, we have access to the spin dash, which wasn't actually introduced in the first game. By holding down on the D-pad and pressing A, Sonic can turn into a ball and build up momentum for an instant burst of speed. In my opinion, this is the best mechanic introduced in the entire series, apart from how rings scatter whenever Sonic is injured. If I make a mistake, the game doesn't make me feel punished whenever I don't make a jump properly and lose momentum. You can just start back up right at full speed in less than a second. And your momentum isn't just achievable by spin dashes. Many zones have boost pads scattered throughout, which really helps when you're faced with slopes and ramps within the level design. Which, speaking of the level design, Jesus, these levels feel so much better than in the first game. Sonic 1 was a fast-paced game when it wanted to be, but Sonic 2 feels way more streamlined. The speed in which Sonic moves sometimes can be insane and really feeds into the original vision of speedrunner platforming that the series was built upon. The zones are far bigger as well, with far more alternate routes and branching pathways scattered throughout the level. If you wanted, you can go through an entire stage without touching the water once. But who am I kidding? I'm not not God. Bonus levels return as well. In Sonic 1, if you have 50 rings and jump through the floating ring at the end of the stage, you were given the chance for a Chaos Emerald at the expense of motion sickness. Sonic 2 builds off this. However, if you have 50 rings and jump through a checkpoint, yeah, these levels aren't good either. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the bonus levels from the first game are better, oh god no. Visually, I really enjoy these. Seeing 3D environments on the Genesis is beyond cool and it controls fairly well. I like watching Sonic be able to fall straight out of the sky, but most of the time you can't see where you're going, and what's even worse is when you... These bonus levels had a good design going for it, but when you don't have enough room to make decisions and the margin of error is so small, this turns the fun change of pace into a frustrating game of memorization while hoping Tails doesn't smack a bomb and lose all of your rings before you reach the end. At least the main levels are fun. Emerald Hill Zone is the first level here, basically just a newer Green Hill Zone proving if it's not broken, why would you fix it? It's a good level. I think I do prefer Green Hill Zone a little bit better, mainly due to nostalgia, but this Emerald Hill feels a lot better. It's so bright and open. I feel like the textures and enemies pop out of the environment a lot more, and it really sets the more vivid vibe that Sonic 2 was going for. Stages now only have 2 acts instead of the original 3, and let me tell you, this is so much better. Levels don't drag on like in the original. With the levels being a bit larger, it feels better to only have 2 acts to navigate, and as soon as the level feels old, you're already moving on to the next act. Which, speaking of, holy sh**, Chemical Plant Zone is so good. Chemical Plant Zone is by far my favorite 2D Sonic level. The music, the level design, I love the coordination between the foreground and the background, the fast-paced tubes zipping you around the level. I know some people might find the moving platforms to be annoying, but I feel this is such a nice change of pace. If you were to continue moving around non-stop, the game would just turn into the simulator of holding right and win. Using the challenge of platforming sections to balance out the fast-paced sections, I don't care what people say, I really like this part. But you can't talk about Chemical Plant Zone without talking about the Run Killer, the underwater section in Sonic 2. This is the most infamous part of the game. So many playthroughs ended right here, which always confused me because I never felt this difficulty spike was too bad. No, I always had a problem with the bottomless pit that came right beforehand. I died so many times here that it wasn't even funny, but even 6-year-old me only died once or twice to the underwater section compared to the bottomless pit, which I still mess up every once in a while. Aquatic Ruin Zone is up next, and it's a pretty good level. It brings us back to the classic underwater levels, which means the last thing I said is now completely irrelevant. Yeah, Sonic 2 still has the aggravating underwater problems that Sonic 1 had. I feel like there is a few more air bubbles scattered throughout, but I'll be honest, I could hardly tell a difference. I will say though, since levels are way bigger, I found myself underwater far less often, which I'll go ahead and mark that as a plus in my book. Casino Night Zone comes after that, and thus starts the trend of almost every single game having to have at least one casino level. Casino Night Zone is pretty neat. I like the interactivity with the environment and the objects throughout the level. It sometimes feels a bit clunky, but there's a lot of personality put in there. You can tell the developers had a lot of fun making this level. Hilltop Zone is up next, which I always found funny. It just looks so out of place compared to everything else. This is one of the slower levels. It's more focused on platforming than building up momentum, which really undermines some of the things in this level. There's this chase section in Act 2, and this boss fight is really funny because you can just... Mystic Cave Zone follows Hilltop Zone, and I don't have much to say about this level. It's about this point in the game in which it turns more into a platformer similar to the first game, rather than the style that we saw in the first couple of levels. Waiting on moving boxes, having to use vine handles to proceed, this is usually about the point in Sonic 2 when I get bored. After that, we have Oil Ocean Zone, and I don't know why, but there's something about this zone I really like. There's so many odd things inside of this level that keep me engaged in what it offers, and I can't help but be impressed. Oil slides fuel your progression. Instead of dying from falling in oil, you'll slowly sink in with the ability to jump out. It's such a perplexing zone, but I actually really enjoy it. Now remember at the beginning of this when I was actually talking positive about Sonic 2? Yeah, Metropolis Zone. Metropolis Zone takes everything that irritates me about the game and throws it into 3 long acts. Countless wait times, slow-paced movement. It doesn't really help that the entire level feels like a maze, but the thing that kills me the most, literally, are these stars with projectiles that are put in the worst possible positions. I've lost so many runs to Metropolis Zone, and playing this game again brought up all of my frustrations. It doesn't help that Metropolis Zone is also the only 3-act zone in the entire game. Despite that though, all 3 of the final zones are only 1 act, with the first act being Sky Chase Zone. Nothing crazy going on here. It's a simple auto-scroller that's at least relaxing after the frustration that was caused by Metropolis Zone. Tails jumps in the tornado and follows you through the sky as your only true mission is to, well, stay alive. Wing Fortress Zone is after that, and this is what happens when you go to get a snack. I'm almost certain that I'm not the only person that died here. Personally, I would have just made Sonic automatically jump here, but I digress. This level is okay as well. With a lot of these later levels, again, it just feels more like a waiting game half of the time. I'm fine with a slower paced gameplay, but I want to actively be involved. wild, especially when 1 minute I'm flying through zones at a high speed to now I'm waiting for this platform to appear below me. But after Wing Fortress Zone comes the Death Egg Zone, and I've beaten plenty of difficult video games before, Zelda 2, Lost Levels, even Battletoads. But this final boss is the reason I was dreading taking a look back at Sonic 2. There's nothing inherently wrong with the boss as it is. You fight Mecha Sonic and then you fight the Death Robot, which isn't that bad, until you realize that they haven't given you any rings for the entire fight. I thought they'd learn from the first game, but you have to fight both of these enemies without getting hit once. It doesn't help that the Death Egg Robot's hitbox is absolutely terrible. But if you think that was bad enough, if you die to the Death Egg Robot, which I've seen this screen far too many times, you have to fight Mecha Sonic again, and the cycle repeats. I got this game when I was 5 years old, and it took me until I was 17 to actually beat it. I just sat down one day, dedicated myself, and took 7 hours to finally beat this challenge. Because when you game over on the last boss fight of the last stage of the game, you have to start all the way back at the beginning and slog through the entire game once again. This level is what drove me insane. I knew that I played this game years ago and beat it, but even when doing this video, it took me over an hour just to beat the game with save states. But alas, we did it. We beat Dr. Robotnik and have saved the planet once again from pure destruction. So were reviewers right? Does this game actually deserve the critical praise it deserves? What do you think? Sonic 2, might I remind you, is my favorite 2D Sonic game. It takes the established formula of the first game and puts a neat polish on it. But the wait times combined with the frustrating enemy and hazard placement still makes this game a chore to play halfway through. This is genuinely one of my favorite retro experiences to play through, but only up until the halfway point. I do love the added mechanics, especially Supersonic. Once you've collected all of the Chaos Emeralds, Sonic can transform into this invincible form that can jump higher and move a lot quicker. This actually came in handy a bunch of times when powering through enemies and some boss fights. At its best, Sonic 2 is a major upgrade in almost every single way from Sonic 1, but it still brings back some of the typical Sonic bullshit that we saw in the first game. It's a great title to play if you're into the history of video games like myself, and I think I can go as far as to say that this is a great title. But if you're starting to get into the retro 2D platformers and need somewhere to start, I don't think I can give this game my recommendation just yet. But you know what I can recommend is not talking about Sonic games ever. Seriously, I think I have an addiction.
Hey man,
What the f? When did you get here? Wait, hold on. I need you to be like, cause